My hubby cheated on me with my cousin. I found out because they're stupid, but now my grandparents helped me get revenge. 3 months into marriage, I thought I was still in the honeymoon phase. Instead, I was standing in my grandparents' living room, sipping iced tea, and listening to them calmly explain how they had just rewritten their will to disinherit my cousin. They didn't raise their voices, they didn't throw plates. They just handed me a stack of papers that meant my cousin's entire graduation inheritance was now mine. That's when it hit me. My revenge wasn't going to be loud. It wasn't going to be messy. It was going to be generational. But how did I get here? How does a woman barely out of her wedding dress end up teaming up with her grandparents to nuke her cousin's future? Before I tell you, if you're new here, welcome. This is where I tell the stories most families would rather bury. Betrayals, humiliations, and revenge so sweet it leaves a scar. So hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and settle in, because this one will make you think twice about both your husband and your cousin. My name is Lauren. I'm 28. I live in Nashville, and until a few months ago, I thought my life was picture perfect. A spring wedding under white roses, a husband who called me his queen, a cousin who stood next to me at the altar, smiling like she was proud of me, and grandparents who gave speeches about love lasting forever. Cute, right? Except forever lasted less than a season. It started with small things, a text message that disappeared when I walked into the room, a weird giggle at family dinners, the way my cousin Megan suddenly became very interested in my husband's career goals, but I brushed it off, because who expects betrayal to walk in through the family door? Until the day they slipped up. And let me tell you, it was the dumbest mistake. The kind of mistake that only happens when people think they're untouchable. Cheaters always think they're slick, like they've reinvented lying. Yeah, mine wasn't, and neither was my cousin. They weren't slick, they were stupid. It was a Sunday morning. I was supposed to be at my grandparents' for brunch, the kind where grandma makes biscuits so buttery they could stop your heart, and you'd thank her anyway. Tyler told me he needed alone time to catch up on work. Megan, my cousin, had sworn she was studying for finals. Cute alibis, right? Except when I pulled back into the driveway to grab the purse I'd forgotten, there was Tyler's car, parked crooked like he'd skidded in on 2 wheels, and there, lying in the passenger seat, was Megan's bright red sweater. The same sweater she wore to Thanksgiving, the one with little threads coming loose on the sleeves. My stomach dropped. My hands shook. Out of instinct, I pulled out my phone and texted him, "Hey babe, how's work going?" Nothing. Waited, sent another. "Don't forget to eat something." Still nothing. The screen stayed dark. No dots, no reply. That silence told me everything. I crept around to the side door, slipped through the kitchen, the smell of bacon hit me, and my own orange juice sat half empty on the counter. Voices drifted down from upstairs. Giggles. That kind of low, hushed laughter that cuts deeper than yelling ever could. I tiptoed up the stairs, one creak at a time, my heart pounding so loud I swore they'd hear it. When I reached the bedroom door, it was cracked just enough. I pushed it with 2 fingers and looked inside. And there it was. Tyler and Megan, naked, tangled together in the kind of raw, frantic sex that made bile rise in my throat. My husband, my blood, in my bed. For a split second, my mind went somewhere dark. To the next room, his little mini office where I knew his Colt 45 sat tucked behind the bookcase. My fingers twitched. I could see it in my mind's eye, the way it would feel heavy and cold in my hands, the way everything could end in one sharp crack. But that thought scared me more than what I was seeing, because I didn't trust myself. Not with that kind of rage boiling through me, not with my whole body shaking from betrayal. So I backed away, step by step. Out of the room, down the stairs, out the kitchen door, back into the driveway where Megan's red sweater still lay like a neon warning sign. My fists were clenched so tight, my nails carved half moons into my palms. I didn't confront them, not then, because I knew if I did, I wouldn't stop at words. I'd stop at ruin. So I left, silent, boiling, already planning. When I drove away that morning, my body felt like a live wire, every nerve humming, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight I thought it might snap. Megan's red sweater was still burned into my vision like it had been branded there. I didn't go back to my grandparents' brunch. I couldn't sit there pushing biscuits around my plate while pretending the world hadn't just caved in. Instead, I pulled into a quiet park, rolled down the windows, and sat there shaking. I thought about calling Tyler. I thought about screaming at Megan. I thought about driving my car straight through the front window of my own house. But then I thought of my grandparents. See, my grandparents are the old school Southern kind. Polite, soft-spoken, but sharper than broken glass. They built their lives on discipline and loyalty, and they always made it very clear. Betray the family, and you pay the price. So later that evening, I drove over. They were sitting on the porch swing, my grandpa sipping sweet tea, my grandma with her knitting in her lap. I must have looked like hell, because the second I sat down, Grandma took my hand and said, "Baby, what's wrong?" I told them everything, the texts, the laughter, Megan's sweater, what I saw in that bedroom. My voice shook, but I got it out. And when I was finished, there was silence. A heavy, deliberate silence. Grandpa's jaw clenched tighter with every detail. Grandma's knitting needles stopped moving altogether. Finally, Grandpa said, "Well, that girl needs to be reminded what family means. Call her. Tell her to come here." An hour later, Megan strolled in like she owned the place. Lip gloss shiny, hair brushed, not a shred of guilt in her step. She sat down across from me and gave me this smug little smile that made my skin crawl. Grandma's voice was cold when she said, "Megan, do you have something you want to explain?" And instead of shame, instead of even pretending to be sorry, she laughed. A dry, mocking laugh. "Yes," she said. "I'm seeing Tyler. He came after me because he told me I was always the one he wanted. I was the one he had a crush on. He only married Loring because, well, who knows? Wrong time, wrong place, I guess." Her words hit like knives. My ears buzzed. I sat there frozen, my hands gripping the edge of my chair, fighting the urge to lunge across the table. And then she turned her head, looked straight at me and said, "So, Lauren, don't act surprised when you get divorce papers. Tyler and I aren't hiding anymore." Silence. The kind of silence where even the air feels heavy. My grandparents exchanged a look that said more than words ever could. That night ended without another word. Megan walked out the door like she'd won something. And me? I sat there shaking, realizing I wasn't just fighting betrayal anymore. I was staring down arrogance so deep it didn't even recognize itself. So the next morning, my grandparents called me over. Papers and coffee cups littered the kitchen table. Grandma slid a folded note toward me. "We thought about what she said," she whispered. The note was from Megan's journal. Grandma had found it while cleaning her room after she left. In it, Megan bragged about Tyler being her future husband and wrote about how excited she was for him to share in her inheritance after graduation. And suddenly, it all clicked. Tyler didn't just cheat because of lust. He wasn't chasing Megan because she was irresistible. He was chasing the dollar signs she dangled in front of him. My husband wasn't just a liar, he was a gold digger. Grandpa slammed his hand on the table. If he thinks he can crawl into this family for money, he's dumber than I thought, and she's a fool for letting him. That's when they made their decision. A decision as sharp and final as a judge's gavel. Megan would get nothing. Not a dime.
The inheritance she'd been planning her whole future around, the condo, the car, the new life she dreamed of, gone. Transferred. Redirected. To me. No yelling, no messy public blow-ups, just quiet signatures, notarized papers, and a shift so devastating she wouldn't even feel it until it was too late. And when it was done, Grandpa leaned back and said, "There, that girl thought she was clever. Let's see how clever she feels when her little gold digger finds out she has nothing left to give him." I sat there stunned, sipping coffee that had gone cold, realizing that in one swift move, my grandparents had taken the thing Tyler wanted most and yanked it out from under him. And Megan, she'd soon discover that being smug only gets you so far when the rug gets pulled from under your feet.
2 weeks later, Megan showed up at my grandparents' house again. Only this time, she wasn't strutting in with lip gloss and smugness. She was pale, frantic, and snapping her gum like it could keep her nerves together. Tyler wasn't with her. She burst through the door, waving a letter in her hand. "What the hell is this?" she demanded. It was the updated will, the one that cut her out completely. Grandpa didn't even look up from his newspaper. It's exactly what it says. You betrayed your family. You betrayed your cousin. You get nothing. Megan's face twisted. "You can't do that." Grandma finally set down her knitting. Her voice was low, steady, lethal. "We can, and we did. You thought you could ruin Lauren's marriage and still walk away with our blessing? Money is for family, and family doesn't destroy family." Megan's eyes filled with tears, but not the kind born from regret, the kind born from losing. She stomped her foot like a child and screamed, "Tyler was counting on this." And there it was, the truth, spilled right out of her own mouth. Tyler hadn't picked her because of love or even lust. He picked her because she was his supposed ticket to a cushy future. He latched on like a parasite. And now, with the inheritance gone, so was his interest. I sat in the corner, silent, just watching her unravel. There was a sick, sweet satisfaction in it, knowing that I didn't have to lift a finger. She was cutting herself open all on her own. Grandpa folded his paper and looked at her squarely. "You tell that boy of yours this. If he wanted money, he should have stayed faithful to the woman who loved him. Instead, he traded a good wife for an empty wallet, and you helped him do it. That's on both of you." Megan's lip trembled. She tried to say something else, but the words died in her throat. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the glass rattled. But that wasn't the end. About 5 months later, on a stormy Friday night, my phone rang. Megan's name lit up the screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. Her voice was wrecked, broken, choked with sobs. "Lauren, I'm sorry. Please, I made a mistake. Please forgive me." I listened for a second. Rain hammered the windows. My heart didn't move. And then I hung up the phone without a word. The next week, my grandparents filled me in. Tyler had dumped her a month after graduation, dropping her like a sack of rotten potatoes when he realized there was no pot of gold coming from our family. No inheritance, no safety net, nothing. Megan was left with exactly what she deserved: heartbreak, humiliation, and silence. And me? I didn't regret a thing. What do you think? Was this karma or pure justice? Would you have forgiven or hung up the phone too? Let me know in the comments. If you love shocking revenge stories, brutal tales of cheating exposed, and the kind of family betrayals that end in unforgettable payback, hit like and subscribe now. New stories of toxic marriages, broken trust, and the most petty, devious revenge drop every day. You don't want to miss what's coming next.